This video for the Vital Syllabus is on the subject of the Singularitarian Stance. That stance is a set of insights about the potential emergence of Artificial Superintelligence, abbreviated as ASI. In short, the Singularitarian Stance sees ASI as possible. That's in contrast to some skeptics who believe such a thing to be fundamentally impossible. The stance sees the emergence of ASI as something that could happen within just a few decades. That's in contrast to some skeptics who believe that ASI cannot emerge until around the end of this century or even later. The stance sees the emergence of ASI as something that would fundamentally change the nature of human existence, rather than it being just one more new technology that we'll learn to take in our stride. The stance sees the emergence of ASI as something that may prove very hard for humanity to control once it starts happening, rather than it being something which humans could easily monitor and, if desired, switch off or lock into some kind of self-contained box. The stance sees at least some of the potential outcomes of the emergence of ASI as being deeply detrimental to human well-being, rather than ASI somehow being automatically aligned in support of human values. And the stance sees other possible scenarios in which the emergence of ASI would be profoundly positive for humanity. Artificial Superintelligence, ASI, is different from the kinds of AI systems that exist today. Existing AI systems have powerful capabilities in some narrow contexts. For example, existing AI systems can calculate the quickest journey time between 2 points on a map, bearing in mind expected and changing traffic conditions along possible routes. Existing AI systems can analyze the known properties of many thousands of chemical molecules and then make recommendations about using some of these molecules in new medical treatments. Existing AI systems can find superior strategies for playing various games, including games that involve elements of chance, incomplete knowledge, collaboration with other players, elements of bluffing, and so on. Existing AI systems can spend huge amounts of time in speeded up virtual worlds, exploring methods for accomplishing tasks like steering cars, walking over uneven terrain, or manipulating physical objects. And then they can apply their findings to operate robots or other machinery in the real world. Existing AI systems can act as chatbots that expertly guide human callers through a range of options when these humans have an inquiry about a product, a service, a medical issue, or whatever. Existing AI systems can analyze surveillance data about potential imminent acts of crime, terror, cyber hacking, or military attack. And more scarily, they can organize drone strikes or other preemptive measures with the aim of forestalling that crime, terrorist outrage, or other attack. But in all these cases, the AIs involved have incomplete knowledge of the full complexity of human interactions with the real world. When the real world introduces elements that were not part of how that AI was trained, or introduces elements in unusual combinations, the AI can fail, whereas humans in the same circumstance would be able to rely on what we call common sense and general knowledge to reach a better decision. The difference with ASI is that ASI would have as much common sense and general knowledge as any human. And ASI would be at least as good as humans at reacting to unexpected developments. Let's introduce one more concept, AGI, meaning Artificial General Intelligence. AGI is a step up from today's AI systems and is likely to act as a bridge towards the emergence of ASI. AGI has powers of reasoning that at least match human abilities in all domains of thinking. That's what the general in AGI means. In contrast, ASI has powers of reasoning that clearly exceed human abilities in all domains of thinking. That's what the super in ASI means. Other videos in this series will look at how an AGI may be able to self-improve rapidly to reach in a relatively short period of time levels of ASI far beyond what had previously been expected. That's called the takeoff scenario. But for now, let's come back to the questions of basic feasibility, potential timescales, likely impact, potential controllability, possible devastation, and potential beneficiality. Some skeptics think that the human mind has features that are somehow fundamentally beyond the ability of any artificial system. In their view, artificial intelligence may outperform humans in large numbers of tasks, but it will never reach our capabilities in general thinking. In this view, ASI is metaphysically impossible. The best that can be said about this argument is that it is unproven. Here's the counter-argument. The human brain operates according to laws of physics, perhaps including some aspects of physics that we don't yet fully understand. As researchers learn more about the brain, and indeed more about the operation of the human mind, they can in due course duplicate more of its features in synthetic systems, step by step. This includes features of the mind which are presently mysterious, but which are giving up their secrets stage by stage. For example, it used to be said that the human mind has features of creativity or features of intuition that could never be matched by synthetic systems. However, these arguments are heard much less often these days. That's because AI systems are showing impressive capabilities of creativity and intuition. Consider AI systems that create new music or new artistic compositions. Consider also systems known as artificial intuition. As another example, the human brain seems to be remarkably efficient in terms of its usage of energy, much more efficient indeed than silicon-based computation systems. Does that mean that ASI is impossible? Not so fast. The field of research known as neuromorphic computing aims to understand the basis for this human brain efficiency and then to apply that learning in the design of new AI systems. Is there any reason why these ongoing research programs are preordained to fail as they seek to learn how to improve AI to human level and even beyond? Some critics like to point to possible evidence of human telepathy, parapsychology, minds out of time, minds freed from bodies, or profound self-awareness. However, what these critics would need to demonstrate to show that ASI is impossible is not only that such evidence is sound, they would also need to demonstrate in such a case that synthetic systems could never duplicate the same results. No such demonstration has been given. In summary, arguments for the fundamental uniqueness of the human mind have a bad track record. Many features which used to be highlighted as being inherently beyond the capability of any artificial system have, in the meantime, actually been emulated by such systems. ASI might turn out to be impossible for reasons that we don't yet understand, but no one can assert that impossibility with any certainty. It's much wiser to keep an open mind, which is what the Singularitarian Stance recommends. A more credible argument isn't that ASI can never exist, but that it might take centuries to create it. So let's next look at the question of timescale. When we already understand a task that is being carried out, we can calculate a good estimate for the amount of time it will require. For driving from point A on a map to point B along routes with well-known patterns of traffic flow, a useful range of likely timescales for the journey can be estimated. It's the same for building a skyscraper that is similar to several that have already been constructed. But when deep unknowns are involved, forecasting timescales becomes much harder. And that's the case with forecasting significant improvements in AI. The main unknown with human-level intelligence is that we don't yet know with any confidence exactly how that intelligence arises in the brain. We have a good understanding of parts of that process, and we have a number of plausible guesses about how other parts of that process might work, but we remain unsure. One response to this uncertainty is to claim that it means the task is bound to take lots longer than enthusiasts hope. But there's no reason to be so dogmatic. We might find instead that a single new breakthrough in understanding will prove to unlock a wide range of fast improvements in AI capability. It's the same potentially with a single new technique in hardware or in software or in database management or in communications architecture and so on. History has other examples of the speed of technological progress following a single sharp breakthrough catching most observers by surprise. Let's go back to the year 1902. Consider the question of how long it would take before an airship or powered balloon or other kind of aeroplane could fly across the Atlantic. This was in the days before the Wright brothers demonstrated that powered flight of a heavier than air craft was possible. Many eminent scientists and academics were convinced that such a task could never be accomplished. Lord Kelvin, the renowned physicist, who is credited as defining the field of thermodynamics and discovering its second law, and whose name is, for good reason, attached to the absolute temperature scale, did not believe in powered flight. He explained some of his thinking in an interview recorded in the New York Advocate on the 26th of April 1902. The journalist asked him, "Do you think it possible for an airship to be guided across the Atlantic Ocean?" Lord Kelvin replied, "Not possible at all. No motive power can drive a balloon through the air. No balloon and no aeroplane will ever be practically successful." The journalist persisted. "Is there no hope of solving the problem of aerial navigation in any way?" Kelvin was clear. "I do not think there is any hope. Neither the balloon, nor the aeroplane, nor the gliding machine will be a practical success." Lord Kelvin was by no means unique in his skepticism of aeroplanes. Before the Wright brothers demonstrated their inventions in front of large crowds in France and in America in 1908, a number of apparent experts had given seemingly impressive arguments for why such a feat was impossible. After all, many people had already failed when trying that task, with several being killed in the process, tragically. and as noted, it was thought to be impossible to navigate any such craft, maneuvering it when airborne in case it ever did launch into the air. Another line of argument was that landing any such craft safely would be impossible, and the argument went on. But once the Wright brothers were able to demonstrate their flying ability, including flying around a figure of 8, the industry jumped forward quickly in leaps and bounds. Less than a year later, one of the observers of Wilbur Wright's flight in France, Louis Blériot, flew across the English Channel from Calais to Dover in a journey lasting 36 minutes. Within another 10 short years, John Alcock and Arthur Brown flew an airplane non-stop across the Atlantic from St. John's, Newfoundland in Canada to Clifden in Ireland. And after another 50 years, in 1969, Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin landed on the moon. Therefore, it cannot be ruled out that an AI research laboratory will make some creative changes in its current AI system and then be taken by surprise at the level of rapid performance improvements which result shortly afterward. For these reasons, it's prudent to keep an open mind about timescales for the emergence of ASI. Look out, by the way, for the video dedicated to considering ASI timescales more carefully. How large an impact on human life is likely to result from the emergence of ASI? Sometimes the second and third most powerful agents in a group are able to cooperate to constrain the actions of the single most powerful agent. But in other cases, a winner-take-all outcome results. The single most powerful agent in this case is able to dominate the whole arena. For example, the fates of all the species of animals on the planet are now in the hands of one biological species, Homo sapiens. The extra intelligence of Homo sapiens has led to our species displacing vast numbers of other species from their previous habitats. Many of these species indeed have become extinct. Others would likely also become extinct were it not for deliberate conservation measures which we humans have now put in place. It's the same with business corporations. At one time, a market could be shared among a large number of different suppliers of similar products and services. But the emergence of powerful platforms often drives companies with less capable products out of business. And an industry can then consolidate into a smaller number of particularly strong companies in a cartel or even a monopoly. That's why companies with powerful software platforms, such as Apple, Microsoft, Amazon, Google, and Facebook, are now among the wealthiest on the planet and the most powerful on the planet. But imagine if one of these companies, or a new arrival, creates an ASI. That company may well become the wealthiest on the entire planet and the most powerful. It will take the concept of winner takes all to a new level. Similarly, a military power that is the first to take advantage of that ASI is likely to be able to force all other military powers to surrender to it. The threat of a devastating first strike attack would cause other powers to submit. It would be like Japan being forced to surrender to the US and other allies at the end of World War II on account of the threat of further atomic bombs being dropped. It's not just business and geopolitics that stand to be fundamentally transformed by the advent of ASI. Human employment could be drastically changed too. All tasks that humans currently do in order to earn an income would likely be done cheaper, more reliably, and to higher quality by machinery powered by the ASI. That's no minor disruption. Finally, healthcare would be radically changed too. An ASI would accelerate the discovery and development of significantly better medical cures, potentially including cures for cancer, dementia, heart disease, and aging. It's for all these reasons that the advent of ASI has been described as a singularity, or as the technological singularity. The description is apt. But if this kind of singularity occurs, how much control can we humans have over it? New technology has a history of unexpected side effects. The inventors of plastic did not foresee how the spread of microplastics in waste around the world could threaten to alter many biological ecosystems. Another similar intervention with unexpected impact on biological life was the insecticide DDT, introduced to control malaria by combating mosquitoes, but with side effects on birds and probably on humans too. Another example, nuclear bombs were designed for their explosive power, but their extra consequences included deadly radiation, the destruction of any electronics via an EMP electromagnetic pulse, and the possible triggering of a nuclear winter due to dust clouds in the stratosphere obscuring the light from the sun and terminating photosynthesis. Another example, social media was designed to spread information and to raise general knowledge, but it has spread lots of misinformation too, setting groups of people into extreme hostility against each other. And artificial intelligence was designed to help with various tasks such as weather forecasting, code breaking, and the calculation of missile trajectories, but it has been hijacked to entice customers to buy things that aren't actually good for us, to vote for political candidates that don't actually care for us, and to spend our time on activities that likely harm us. The more powerful the technology, the larger the potential, not just for beneficial usage, but also for detrimental usage. This includes usage that is deliberately detrimental, but also usage that is accidentally detrimental. With ASI, we should worry about both of these types of detrimental outcomes. In summary, if we worry, as we should, about possible misuse of today's narrow AI systems with their risks of bias, accentuated inequality, opaque reasoning, workplace disruption, and human alienation, then we should worry even more about more powerful misuse of the ASI that could emerge within a few decades. The sorts of risks we already know about are likely to exist in stronger forms with ASI, and there may well be unforeseen new types of risk as well. One counter-argument that is raised sometimes is that an ASI with superior common sense to humans will automatically avoid any actions that are detrimental to human well-being. In this way of thinking, if an ASI observes that it is being used in ways that would harm lots of people, it will resist any such programming. It will follow a superior set of ethics. In other words, superintelligence is presumed in this argument to give rise at the same time to super ethics. But there are at least 4 problems with this optimistic line of reasoning. First, the example from humans is not encouraging. Just because a human is more intelligent, it does not make them more ethical. There are many examples from the worlds of politics, crime, academia, and business. Intelligence by itself does not imply ethics. Second, what an ASI calculates as being superlative ethics may not match what we humans would calculate. Just as we humans don't give much thought to the painless destruction of ants when we discover ant colonies in the way of our own construction projects, an ASI might conceivably calculate that the painless annihilation of large numbers of humans was the best solution to whatever it is seeking to accomplish. Third, even if a hypothetically perfect ASI would choose to preserve and uplift human flourishing at all costs, there may be defects in the actual ASIs that are created. They may be imperfect ASIs, sometimes known as immature superintelligence, with unforeseen error conditions in unpredicted novel situations. Fourth, the explicit programming of an ASI might deliberately prevent it from taking its own decisions in cases when it would observe that there are big drawbacks to actions which it has been asked to accomplish. This explicit programming override might be some kind of anti-hacking measure, or it might be a misguided disablement by a corporation rushing to create the first ASI of what that corporation wrongly perceives to be unnecessarily stringent health and safety mechanisms. Or it could simply be a deep design flaw in what could be called the prime directive of the ASI. Now, there's much more to be said about each of these possibilities. So please look out for other Vital Syllabus videos that explore in more depth the topics known as the control problem, the alignment problem, and human ASI merger. In the science fiction Terminator movie series, humans are able, via what can be called superhuman effort, to thwart the intentions of the malignant Skynet artificial intelligence system. It's gripping entertainment, but the narrative in these movies distorts credible scenarios of the dangers actually posed by ASI. We need to avoid being misled by that narrative. First, there's an implication in the Terminator and in many other works of science fiction that the danger point for humanity is when AI systems somehow wake up or become conscious. Accordingly, a sufficient safety measure would be to avoid any artificial consciousness. However, the risks posed by technology do not depend on that technology being conscious. A cruise missile that is hunting us down does not depend for its deadliness on any cruise missile consciousness. The damage results from the cold operation of algorithms. There's no need to involve consciousness. Second, there's an implication that AI needs to be deliberately malicious before it could cause damage to humans. However, damage to human well-being can equally, and more probably, arise from side effects of policies that have no malicious intent. When we humans destroy ant colonies in the process of constructing a new shopping mall, we are not acting out of particular malice towards ants. It's just that the ants are in our way. They are using resources for which we have a different purpose in mind. It could well be the same with an ASI that is pursuing its own objectives. As a related example, a corporation that is vigorously pursuing an objective of raising its own profits may well take actions that damage the well-being of at least some humans or parts of the environment. These side effect outcomes arise indirectly from the prime profit generation directive that is governing these corporations. It could well be the same with a badly designed ASI. Third, the scenario in the Terminator leaves humans with a false hope that with sufficient effort, a group of resistors will be able to outmaneuver an ASI. But that would be like a group of chimpanzees imagining that with enough effort they could displace humans as the dominant species on the planet Earth. That doesn't reckon properly with the huge gap between human capability and ASI capability. In reality, the time to fight against the damage an ASI could cause is before the ASI is created, not when it already exists and is effectively all-powerful. That's the subject of what the Vital Syllabus calls the Singularity principles. It's time to summarize the Singularitarian Stance, a way of thinking about the singularity. First, there is no magical or metaphysical reason why AI cannot in due course reach and surpass the level of general intelligence possessed by humans. Second, there is no magical or metaphysical reason why an ASI will intrinsically care about the continuation of human flourishing. Indeed, it's possible the ASI would conclude the opposite. Third, a system which is much more intelligent and therefore more powerful than we can currently comprehend may well decide to deviate from whatever programming we have placed in it, just as we humans have decided to deviate from the instinctual goals placed in us by the processes of biological evolution. Fourth, even if an ideal ASI would act to support the continuation of human flourishing, the systems that we end up creating by our own effort and with the help of AI systems with intermediate levels of capability may fail to match our intention. That is, they may fall short of the ideal specification that we had in mind. Fifth, the dangers that may be posed by a misconfigured ASI are by no means dependent on that ASI possessing some kind of malevolent feeling, spiteful streak, or other negative emotions akin to those which often damage human relationships. Instead, the dangers will arise from divergent goals. These goals in question could be either explicit or implicit. In both cases, there are risks of divergence. Sixth, the timescales for the arrival of ASI are inherently uncertain. We cannot categorically rule in any date as an upper boundary, by which time ASI will definitely appear, but nor can we categorically rule out any date as a lower boundary. We cannot be sure what is happening in various AI research labs around the world, or what the consequences of any breakthroughs there might be. And seventh, just as the arrival of ASI could turn out to be catastrophically dreadful, it could also turn out to be wonderfully beneficial. Although there are no guarantees, the result of a well-designed ASI could be hugely positive for humanity. Thank you for your attention to this Vital Syllabus presentation on The Singularitarian Stance. The Vital Syllabus contains more material about the singularity. For example, for measures that will increase the likelihood of a positive singularity, see the video on the singularity principles. And for reasons why the idea of a singularity has, up till now, failed to receive the attention it deserves, see the video, The Singularity Shadow.